Let's talk about how to write jokes that steer clear of politics. Now, many claim to do this, but few people have actually managed it. But if anybody has done it, it is the legendary Steven Wright.
I used to work for the factory where they make hydrants, but you couldn't park anywhere near the place.
I will say, for the most part, I think when comedians say, "I wish this wasn't political," what they mean is, "I wish these politics matched mine exactly and were therefore invisible to me." I mean, that's not being apolitical. It's more like unexamined. Let's get into it. First, I want to say thank you to the patrons who support the channel. It means a lot to me. You can also support me by watching my films, reading my books, links to all that below. Join the Discord to keep up with our live joke writing streams and other writing challenges. Those are a lot of fun. Thanks, guys. Just because you've never mentioned Trump doesn't mean that you're not being political. I mean, if your jokes include just about any situation with more than one person interacting with the real world, that joke exists in the context of politics. Sorry. I know, a lot of people have become wealthy and powerful by pretending they either have no politics or their politics are perfectly centrist. In my view, this is, at best an ignorant approach and at worst a cynical grift. Maybe this is just me, but I think most of us are not going to want to do what Steven Wright does. I mean, we got into comedy because we want to talk about our human experience, including the way that humans interact. And it's not possible to do that apolitically. But it is possible to have a legendary career in comedy while nominally steering clear of politics, as proven by Steven Wright.
If sometimes you can't hear me, it's because sometimes I'm in parentheses.
You don't have to do it this way. You could, just do puns. I have a very low opinion of wordplay, pun-type jokes. I know people love them, but in my view, wordplay is to joke writing what selfies are to photography. Pretty much anybody can learn to do it. People are usually proud of the ones that they've made, but they don't really rise to the level of art. If there is one thing to recommend puns, it's that they can be completely apolitical. I mean, the significant part of wordplay is recognizing patterns between words, and there doesn't need to be any part of human interaction in there for that. Of course, this is also exactly why they're not that funny to me. But if you're trying to write 5 minutes that's totally without politics, puns could help, I guess. In fact, they're maybe kind of your only hope. But if any of your puns are about interacting with fellow humans, well, that would technically be political. And you could probably avoid it being called political by, making it obvious that the subjects of your jokes are, not real and kind of whimsical. Which brings us back to the legend himself.
I stayed up one night playing poker with tarot cards. I got a full house and 4 people died.
Now, a lot of people call Steven Wright a one-liner comedian. I don't really like that because it makes it sound like conversational style sets and sets of jokes without all that connective tissue are somehow different at their core when they're not. Every set needs to be made of jokes. But what is different about Wright's work is that his jokes are almost idea puns. Instead of taking recognizable phrases or words and moving them around to indicate how they match, he takes recognizable situations apart and then moves their parts around.
Last night I was in a bar and I walked up to this beautiful woman and I said, "Do you live around here often?" She said, "You're wearing 2 different color socks." I said, "Yes, but to me they're the same because I go by thickness."
His work is a lot funnier than puns because it takes more craft to disassemble and reassemble ideas in this way than it does to just notice word meanings and sounds. But because we understand that the things that happen in his jokes aren't real and the things that happen have a kind of whimsical direction, they're about as apolitical as comedy can be. Wright went on Conan O'Brien's podcast last year and talked a lot about how he comes up with his material. I highly recommend watching him talk about it if you want to get a sense of what it takes. A link to that in the description.
I'm not walking down the street I need another joke. I need a new joke. Right. I'm just walking down the street, but the scan is going like this, and it would just see something, a word or something, going, doot, doot, doot. That's
something.
Yeah, that could be something.
Another benefit of this approach, outside of being able to make a substantive claim to being apolitical, is that when you write a joke that works, it will always work. Steven Wright's Johnny Carson appearances from the 80s are just as funny now as they were then. He's not talking about Reagan or smoking or other current events. That stuff would have been likely to age out.
Last summer, I drove cross country with a friend of mine. We split the drive and we switched every half mile. The whole way across, we only had one cassette tape to listen to. I can't remember what it was.
It takes a lot of thought to write material like this. According to Wright, he works out every day and then goes someplace and drinks coffee while he writes down ideas as they come to him. He said this in an interview with Colbert.
I'm like a receptionist for my mind. I just write down things that come into my head, jokes or whatever they are. Like, I'll just write jokes down. Like, one came into my head. May I tell you a joke from the other day?
I would be very grateful.
My friend Jimmy bought an electric car. He's very excited about it. Then he bought an electric blanket. Then he bought an electric guitar. Then he bought an electric chair, and I haven't heard from him.
Now that sounds simple, but the part I'm hearing, I don't know for sure whether this is there or not because I don't know the man personally, but if you take what he says about scanning for ideas in the Conan interview and pair that with what he's saying about writing in the Colbert interview, to me, it sounds like somebody who's writing regularly. They're, keeping that muscle going so that he's ready to make observations that become jokes. If you're not writing regularly already, maybe make it an everyday thing. I think Steven Wright is just about as good an example as you can get of someone who has managed to do something so many others claim. I love his work, and I have since I was a kid. If you really want to be apolitical, I think he's shown us what that looks like. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, like and subscribe, and maybe jump on the Patreon if you want to help me make more. And if you want to talk about comedy writing with people who are trying to do it in a constructive way, we also have a Discord channel.